Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to do a bit of a build. It's not a full build like most of the videos I do, because I do step along the way. So it's going to be the 5600X. It's going to be in the B550M Pro VDH MSI motherboard. I got the Phanteks P500A digital case that everything is going to go into. So we're going to see how all that goes. And for the very first time, I'm using some cables from CableMod just to kind of make it look a little nicer. So thought I'd give that a try. I got some little tidbits along the way, some little tricks and tips to help make your build easier. And we'll go through them as the video goes on. So stay tuned. Here we go. Okay, so one of the first things I want to show you is how to put in your memory. I know most people know this already, but slots 2 and 4, that's usually the ones you want to put in. Line this slot up with the slot that's in here, and you'll be good. I usually start with the outside, line them up, push them down. You'll hear that click, and it's in. Same thing with the other one. Line it up, and push down. Pretty simple, and you can obviously hear that. So here's the other thing I like to do. Your motherboard, in this case, is a micro ATX motherboard. So you're going to look for all these little holes here, because that's where all your standoffs are going to be. So when you're looking inside your case, you have to find out where that's going to fit. So I had to add like these two and the one over here, and just make sure they all line up. Because if you don't have them all line up, or even worse, if you have one of these in here that doesn't need to be here, and then you turn the power on, you will short out your motherboard, maybe other components, and it's all going to be a whole lot of money gone down the drain. So keep that in mind. Check that every one of these standoffs has a hole. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, but there's only 3, one of them's got to come out. So that's what you need to check. So dry fit it. What I mean by dry fit is simply pick it up. All right. This is obviously going to go toward the back, and look at it over the holes. Okay. When you're looking in, if you can't line them up and you can't see where those are all at, well, then you know you have an issue. So big tip there, make sure you do that, or that's a monumental, potentially catastrophic problem that you will run into. Okay, so something I want to point out is there was a standoff right here. So, of course, what you do is count the number of standoffs. So when you count them out, I only needed 8 for this motherboard. Okay, now when you put it on, that one was in the wrong spot. Had I left that there, that could have shorted out the motherboard. Okay, something as simple as that. So be wary. Make sure you dry fit these. Make sure you know that it's going to fit in there properly, and you're good. Now, when I put this in, there's going to be 3 standoffs here on the bottom. Okay, so those standoffs on the bottom, they're not touching the motherboard. They're not interfering with anything. And because we could wind up changing the motherboard out in the future to an ATX, which will be longer, and we'll use those screws, we'll probably be able to keep these ones in. We'll obviously have to take out the ones for the micro ATX, and then we'll be good to go. So we're going to make sure that these are all fastened in. They give me a little tool to put them on and tighten that on. I'm just going to try and show you that real quick. Okay, so this little tool here, they give that to you. All right, and that's meant to go over top of the motherboard standoffs to tighten them down. Do not over tighten. Okay, don't over tighten. If you over tighten, you're going to strip them. You strip them, now you got a problem. All right, so make sure you go in. Just like, don't even care about these ones right now, because we're not putting in an ATX motherboard. We're putting in a micro ATX. So just go in here and just turn it. Okay, see how that is turning? You want that to be in there nice and tight. If that doesn't fit for whatever reason, which this one's really doesn't seem to be, okay, so that's spinning and spinning, something's wrong. So we have to take that out, see what's going on with it. Is it the wrong standoff? Is there a different size one? Maybe there is. Let's have a look. Here's a different one here. Let's put it in, find out if it's the right one. Because it should go in. There we go. And it tightens down. Okay? Be aware of things like that, because these are the very beginning of your build. you screw that up, you might as well not bother doing any of the rest of it. Okay? Very, very important. I can't stress it enough. People overlook this in their builds, and it causes no end of problems, and they try and troubleshoot it, and they just don't know what's going on. It could be that. Just something to point out again. So I'm going to go ahead, going to check all these, going to tighten them all down. Then we're going to put in a motherboard. Okay, so something I wanted to show you that came out of this is I did have to take the standoff off the bottom of the case. So I took this one here and had to move it a little bit because the standoffs that they supplied, so these ones here, did not fit. So these must be for when you mount your GPU vertically. Okay, so they go on, they get little screws, set them on top, and has to have something to do with that. I haven't mounted a GPU vertically, probably in any system, but they fit in there perfectly. And so keep in mind there's 4 standoffs that go in these screws here, okay, these holes, and obviously that must be what it's for, because they will not fit into the motherboard case itself. Okay, so the case, it doesn't fit in any of these standoff holes. So I had to remove the one of them from down here, put it over here. They're now all tightened down, and in a second here we're going to dry mount our motherboard. Okay, so we're going to put our motherboard in, line them up with all those standoffs, which I now know are correct. One of them is it's there to assist you to put it in. Once you've got a couple in place, it's not going to go anywhere, but be darn careful to make sure you've got a couple in there securing it, and then proceed to put in the rest of them. Okay, so all my standoffs are in place. It's all screwed in. All right, it's all nice and secure. So basically, it gets very simple today to build a computer. Pretty much anybody can do it. Honestly, there's really not much to it. We have our M.2 drive in here already, which is just a 1 terabyte Western Digital NVMe drive SSD. And of course, we have our cooler CPU already in, put our memory in. So we're just going to hook up our 8-pin for power, our 24-pin, and it's pretty much going to be it. The only thing I'm probably going to hook up otherwise is going to be another hard drive on the bottom, which will hook up into here, into our power. The big thing that's going to come with this case is I'm going to go over all the cables, because that's something that you can see somebody build a computer all day long, but if you don't know how to connect all your cables from your case, well, you're pretty much at a standstill. I will show you all of that, so stay tuned, and it's coming up. And I will hopefully have it divided into chapters, so if you want to skip ahead and watch that, you can go right ahead. So just before I continue on with the build, let's go over some of the parts I've got in here. So the motherboard, MSI P550M Pro VDH Wi-Fi. All right, AM4 socket. We have our Corsair Vengeance Pro RGB memory, 32 gigabyte, 2x16, 3200 megahertz, DDR4. We have our AMD Ryzen 5 5600X and our Western Digital Blue SN550 NVMe SSD and our Hyper 212 RGB Black Edition CPU cooler. So pretty much that's everything that's in here. I'll probably add a hard drive to it as well, separate from the M.2 just for storage, and that pretty much covers everything. So let's finish this up, show you where all the cables connect, how they connect. Obviously we're going to have some cables coming up on here because there's a lot of space. So you're going to have some hanging down, but because I have cable modded cables, it look a little bit better than it might look otherwise. So let's continue on. Okay, so I said there was going to be a few things to go over, a few tips, a few tricks. So what do you see missing? Right, your I/O shield. So how do you fix that? That does only get fixed one way. You have to take your motherboard back out, pop this back in, put your motherboard back in. That literally is the only way to fix it. Unless you're just going to decide not to do it. I don't suggest that. It's not a big deal to take a motherboard in, take it out. These things happen. So be aware of them. I'm pointing them out. I'm giving you all the different little tricks and tips and things to be aware of and watch out for. Not going to see it in most videos because most people wouldn't even show you. Another thing to look out for. You have to take out these two. unless you're mounting it vertically. All right. There's no rear exhaust fan. You might want to put one in. I have an RGB RF120 from Deep Cool. I may put in there, but I might just leave, put a Corsair one in there that's a little bit quieter. That's a 140. It'll take it up and have a rear exhaust in there as well. Something I did not show in a previous video. I'm just going to, there we go. We didn't show the fan or the filter. Very small filter, very easy to take out, put back in. So if you need to clean it, you can do that. Forgot that in the previous video. So there you are. So another thing I want to point out, I'm just going to move this here. All right, so have a look at the back of our case. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. Okay, we have 3 spots to put SSDs. Very simple. You push up on it. Okay, it's going to take a little bit. You don't want it to be loose. Okay, and it comes out. Mount your SSD in there. Put it back in. All right, and again, push down until you feel it lock in place. These are all little things that in the grand scheme of things won't make that much difference. But if you're the one that wants to know how to do it, it's hard to find a video on it. So I'm going to put tags for all these little things in there so you can see it, so you know what to do, what to look for, all that kind of good stuff. You're going to be able to see in here all the case cables. I'm going to show you where they go. So I had to use this one SATA power because I didn't order it when I got the Cable Mod cables. But when you go to see these are a thing of beauty, right? I forgot to get cable combs. Another thing, you're gonna buy custom cables, get cable combs with it, right? I'm gonna order them. I'll put them back on. It'll nice it up. Just won't be for this video. But you know what? It's not a big deal. It'll still look great. You still get your cables. Okay, they're all gonna still reach where they need to go. In this case, in here for your CPU, for your power, and over here for your 24-pin power. Again, unloosen these, and you'll be able to slide these back, move your cables in, and adjust them how you want. All right. So great case, as I reviewed earlier. So let's go back, put our I/O shield in, and get on with this. Okay, so installing your I/O shield is simply a matter of comparing it with your motherboard, making sure it goes on right. There's a little lip. Okay, so when you put that on, make sure that you line this lip so that when you put your motherboard in, everything's going to go in right. So take your little lip, line it up, and when it's in there right, you'll be able to push, and you'll hear it click. Hear that? And that's it. So some motherboards, this could be, or some cases I should say, this can be really troublesome because that just doesn't want to go in right. And that's because manufacturer of the case didn't put a lot of stock in it. Maybe your motherboard didn't do it right. So there could be a bit of looseness or something like that. But generally speaking, they should all click in like this, fit your motherboard in, and you'll be good to go. So I'm going to put the motherboard back in, and we'll continue. Okay, so here's one thing else that can go wrong. You hook all your cables up, your power supply, everything's good to go. 24-pin, that's pretty easy to recognize. But the ones that are not always easy to recognize, unless you just decide to look in, you're not always going to be able to do that. When they mod the cables, they may do like this, where this is a PCI cable. Now, it's not marked anywhere, so that's the only reason you know is because these are separated, all right? You can put them together and it will look exactly like the CPU, okay? But generally speaking, they're going to be different, and you'll be able to see the difference. So when you look at the actual CPU cable, okay, it's thicker, and that's another thing I'll point out. On this one, these two will go together, but you're only going to have that one little tab, all right? Whereas on the CPU, when you have that cable, okay, it's thicker. It's the thickness that it's going to click onto on your motherboard. So now that we've identified our cables, here's what we need to do next. So we fed our cable for the CPU up in the back. There's a slot at the top. It's going to go up here. Lots of tie down, so don't worry about that. Now we're going to take our 24 pin. And now remember I said these move. So figure out on the inside where you want that to be. Unscrew these and then put it back. Tighten it down so you can slide this inside. Okay, you may have to remove this off of here. Okay, it just comes right off. It's Velcro. And it's out of your way and you can push it through. All right, the whole idea is to be able to hide that. And you're going to be able to hide this so well in this case. It's going to be quite crazy. And our two PCIe cables are here on the bottom. Okay, so that's the only two we have left. And of course the SATA for power, which I left with the regular normal cable that comes with a power supply. So we're going to go turn around and show you how to connect that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let's just change it. There we go. Okay, so that's the beauty of these cables. You got a little bit more room, a little more reach, and it's easier for me to show you where they all go in. So you can see that tab up in here. This has got the tab on it. Okay, so you just turn it the way you want it, or the way you need it, I should say. Okay, we're going to bend it like this. We're going to have the flexibility. We're going to have the flexibility of moving these around. So that's why the cable combs would have been nice to have had, because it would help it stay in place. So put it in there, push it in. Okay, it should lock into place, but again, with modded cables, I'm not really sure. Okay, so I've confirmed that's in there. I double checked the tab. Now we're going to do the same thing with the CPU power. Okay, you've got the double tab here. And when you look on here, the tab's a bit wider. So make sure these line up. Put it in. So this is going to be on top. Again, we got a little more room, so it's easier to show you. But then again, these get in the way too. So, but anyway, you can see that. It just goes up in here and plugs in. You can hear that one when it clicks in a little bit better than the other one. And again, we can take these cables, and they're a little easier to tuck out of the way. I think it's going to look great once I get it all tidied up. Well, that's going to look kind of nice. Again, the cable combs would have made it look a lot better. Okay, that's kind of the key here. Is the one on the 24 pin, I kind of got it niced up a little bit. I'll do the same thing with this one up here, and it'll just look better. So I'm going to go back to the back of the case and show you what I'm going to do there. Okay, so I just kind of move this down along the side here. Okay, and I'm going to have to play with this a little bit. Tuck it around our SSDs so we can still use those in the future. And take it through here. Okay, let's just pull it in a little bit. That's the nice thing with cables being individual. You can do that and then use the Velcro strap and tighten them in there. And we can do the same thing with this one just for now. And because it's Velcro, we can keep moving this if we adjust our cables along the way. Still clears everything up in here. Still get to our back plate. So if we need to change and want a different CPU cooler, whatever it might be, and we still get all the tie downs down here. And our PCI cables, could it get any easier? Really don't think so. So let's connect up our front panel connectors and all that kind of stuff. But before we do that, I want to show you some of these cables. Now, it's not necessary to undo all of these. They've already tucked it in there real nice for you. And so unless you think there's something hidden that you can't see, leave them there. They've already done your job for you. They've already made it nice. But you want to double check any cables you need to plug in. So this is for SATA. That's where this cable here comes into play. So that's the one I had to keep. So we plug one of those in here. Look for your L. Look for the L on here. Line them up and plug it in. Very simple. Nothing to it. Okay, so that's the one cable from the case. Now, look at the rest of them. This one's already done. And I don't think there's really anything I need to do with this. Just going to have a quick look on here. So this is the address to RGB. So that one there is going to probably go on the motherboard. I'm going to double check in a moment. That goes on the motherboard to power everything. Only thing other than that is your fan. And we have, of course, your connectors for another connector for the RGB. So it's probably going to be this one here. So motherboard, digital RGB 3-pin. Okay, so that one there. So you may not need to use this one here unless you don't have the addressable RGB on your motherboard. All right, just something to keep in mind. Remember, there's controls on the top of this case. It shows you how to do that. And of course, we have all our other connectors for fans, our HD audio, and we're going to plug all that in. We're going to feed it all through. Nothing surprising here. We just have our fans, a couple of them, a couple different fans. We have our USB 3.0 and our 3 fans. So we have 3 fans. We got the RGB that goes with it, and our front panel connectors, and of course USB Type-C. So we're going to feed all those in, plug them all in. This we may not need for anything else, but if you had an SSD, you could plug it in here. You could plug up to 3 different ones. Okay, so you have 3 SSDs running on there if you wanted to, or use your hard drive if you want to add one in here and just plug it in. That is it for the cabling. So I'm going to go ahead, hook everything up. We're going to move on to the front of the case, show you where it all goes, and then we'll kind of wrap things up here. Okay, so did want to show you the hard drive. Okay, so when you're looking at the hard drive, you've got the SATA connector that's going to go to your motherboard and your SATA for power. So that's, again, what this cable is for. So you simply line up so that the L's connect. You have to look inside just to make sure it's the right way and connect it. Okay, that goes on. Your SATA cable goes on the other side. It's a little tiny one. Let me get it. I'll just show it to you real quick here. Okay, so you got a SATA connector, and it's got an L shape. Like, there's different types. You've got one that has an end like this. Let me just show you. So you can have a flat end, or usually for a DVD, but nowadays I don't use them for that much. And you just pop it on here. Again, lining up the L, make sure it's going on the right way. Push it in. Now to take that off, you have to push this back on. You push down, pull it out. Okay, so we're going to put that in our hard drive cage. And then this cable here just simply goes to your motherboard. All right, because the SATA, this one is power for the hard drive itself. All right, so, and this is a Seagate 2 terabyte Barracuda drive, 7200 RPM. And one thing I want to correct, I told you the NVMe was the Western Digital, but it's actually Crucial. So Crucial 1 terabyte NVMe solid state drive. Okay, that's what's in there. So I'm going to put the hard drive in, go to the front, connect all our cables, and then we'll be done. Okay, so something else you don't see very often is somebody showing you how to actually install the hard drives. So put it in here. Okay, you can see it's sitting loose in there right now. There's little holes in here, so you have to line them up. Okay, make sure they're lined up well. Put your screw in and tighten it on. Now, one thing I want to point out, don't over tighten too much, because you got this little rubber damper on here. Okay, that's for vibration. So it's to keep it from making any excess noise. So I've already got one on here. And of course, one of the things I want to point out as well is the screw. So they give you special screws for these. They're a little bit longer. Okay, so you got that so that when you put it in, it's going to line up better for you. Okay, so we got one more here. We have to push down a little bit on it. Put that in. All right. And then all we're going to do is put this back in. You're going to have that facing out, which is good because this has to go in on the bottom, which I showed in previous video, but I'll show you again here. There's little tabs in the bottom in here, and these tabs, 4 of them, you go on and you just slide it and push it in. And there we go. All right, and that's it. We'll put our cables on here, and like I said, we'll hook it up at the front and carry on. Okay, so I've got all my cables fed to the front of the case, and one thing I started looking for was, because I'm so used to plugging in USB 2.0, but this case doesn't have USB 2.0, so it's only got 3.0. So the only cable you're going to have for that is this one, and the only other one is the power button, because everything else runs off of the SATA power connector in the back. So once you connected your SATA power in the back, you got your USB Type-C, which is going to go in here. You've got your SATA for your hard drive, which is going to be down here. And then you've got your fans and your HD audio, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to go ahead and plug all that in. And I tried to find the closest locations for those as I could. And once those are in, then we'll put our graphics card in. And that's when we get to use this little slot, feed the cable up, and do it that way. Unless, of course, it looks better doing it the other way. But we'll figure that out as we get to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my USB Type-C, which just goes in here. Now, very simple. It goes, doesn't matter which way you do it, it's going to go in. You just bend it, put it in the middle. Oh, my finger gets out of the way here. Oh, got it. All right, there we go. Okay, so it just pushes in. Wiggle it a little bit, because sometimes it goes in, it doesn't quite go in. That's from a video I did a little while ago. So wiggle a little bit, you'll hear it click in place, and then you're good. So then I'm going to hide that cable as much as I can in the back, and we'll be good. So now we have a fan. So you get your little tab here, and line it up with your tab here. Don't worry about this one right now, do that after. So we have a system fan up here, so that's where that's going to go. So we're just going to plug it in. All right, and we'll feed that cable back out. And okay, so we'll do our SATA cable now. So it doesn't matter which one you put it in. People will vary. They'll say, oh, you should put it in this one or that one. Really doesn't make any difference. So I'm going to put it in whatever one makes it easiest for me. I do try and put it up on this one here. These do get in the way, just in case you're wondering why I'm having trouble. So put it in there. I'm going to try and shove this behind here, if I can at all. It's pretty tricky actually, because I don't like this. It's the only flaw I've got onto this. So once it's behind there, it's fine. You'll be able to move it over a little bit, hide that cable. So it's cleaning up real quick. Now we have our power switch. We don't have a reset on this. Anything else to worry about? So we have power, which I'll do last. I'm going to do the RGB. Okay. So it says on your case, it says MB, so for motherboard, digital RGB 3-pin. Okay, so you got your connectors. Your J Rainbow one is your addressable RGB on this motherboard. So line it up, and it'll go in. You just have to play with it a little bit. I don't know why it's always trouble. Okay, now you can take this little tab off. I tend to leave them on because they put them on there to remind me and let me know which one it is. So I just kind of tuck it under and it's good. So now we have another fan cable. Again, we can tuck that cable out of the way as much as we can. And now we have, oh, that's the power. So now we have our USB 3.0. Okay, so here's the different scenarios. I'm going to feed this back because it's on the side here. Don't get that very often. So it's going to nicely tuck through here. So I'm going to feed that back, bring it in through here and tuck it in. So in the meantime, let's go over to the other side of our case. So we have another system fan that's just going to go in right up here. I'm just going to go right there. All right. And our HD audio. So the HD audio has one little spot where it won't go. Usually when you look at it, the HD audio is usually always going to face up. In this case, it's upside down. So that's in there. Tuck that cable out of the way. So you're going to have a couple cables in here. So it's one thing I wish I could clean that up a little bit more, but we can't really do that. So I'm going to remove this, and then we're going to plug in our power. I honestly can say this is the first case I've ever had where the only thing I had to plug in was a power in USB 3.0. There's no other case cables except for your fans and the RGB. So I'll pause it for a minute, or feed it back through here, and then we'll plug that in. Okay, so we got our cable here. There's a little divot here. When you look at it, there's a little divot here. Just simply take it, bring it up. Now, again, these are getting in the way, so you can take those off if you really need to. Otherwise, you're just going to have to play with this a little bit. Okay, so that's in there now. major pain in the butt with this. I'm not a big fan of this at all. They need to revisit this and take these out of here and do something else. I don't know. That just, to me, that's no good. So the only thing left is your power cable. We're going ahead and plug it in. Okay, anyway, it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be only just that one cable for power, which just goes here. That's it. So I'm going to close these a little bit and see if that helps its look a little bit. If it was an ATX motherboard, it would look better, just so you know. So I've been working with the cables as I go along, and you can see how it's kind of getting real nice. I got a little more work to do, but that's not a big deal. And these will all tuck up. I'll get them all cleaned up out of the way and everything afterward. And yeah, so we'll come back to this in a little bit. So there's one more fan that I almost missed because it kind of tucked up here. It's going to go right on here. That's another system fan header. So I'm just going to plug that in. And that's kind of tuck out of the way here in a minute again. I don't know how much further I can bring this, but it does tidy up quite nicely. Now these cables are more noticeable because you've got this much more room, whereas the ATX would come all the way down here and it would hide those cables. You wouldn't notice them quite as much. Now, once you put your graphics card in here, which will be next, I don't know if that'll hide them at all, but we'll find out when we do it. Okay, so the last thing we got to do, I fed my cables for the PCIe cables up. We have a GTX 1070 Founders Edition graphics card. We're going to put it in the slots, but before we do that, we have to take out 2 of these PCIe slots. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to put our card in. Okay, so I've got our 2 slots empty here. Card goes in, this goes in to the slot, which this will pop up once it's locked in place. Okay, so just a matter of lining it up. Turns out I have to take out the top 2 slots. And that is probably because it's a micro ATX motherboard. That's probably the only reason. So just to be aware of that. Normally it's the bottom, it's the second and third, but because it's a micro ATX, everything sets up a little bit higher. So that's what we got to do. So line it up, pop it in, you hear that little click, and then we're just going to fasten that on like that, and we're good to go. I like to prop it up a little bit when I do it, just to make it so there's no sag. Now we have a sag cable with this case, but I really don't need it, so I will save it for something better. Have a look at this case. Look at how much room you have left. So when I am finally able to get a hold of a RTX 3080 or 3090 or whatever I can get my hands on, we're going to have more than enough room in this case to do that without compromising anything. So that's going to be nice. So that points out another thing I want to mention. Not every one of these that you get in the case can go back on. So you can do a fit, just level it up, eyeball it. I didn't do that this time. And then you're going to know you're going to put it in the right spots. Okay? Keep in mind, like I said, micro ATX sets up a little further. So instead of the second and third slot, you're going to use the first and second. That's all you need to know for now. I'm going to put this back in and we'll be good to go. So I didn't need both PCIe cables, so I've got them for future. I just needed the one because this just uses an 8-pin for power. Just the way the more efficient power supplies work sometimes. So I'm just going to line that up, make sure this tab goes in the bottom part of this. Okay, I'm just going to make sure it's on there right. Push this in. And you should normally hear a click, but these modded cables don't seem to have that click that you normally get when you have a, well, the standard cables that come with power supply. So not sure why that is. Anyway, so open it up and tuck this cable down a little bit more. This is where having a cable comb would be would look a little nicer. But I'm going to get some. I'm going to put them on there. But that's it. That's the inside. Looks pretty sharp, actually. I kind of like that. If the cable comb was on here, I'd probably nice that up a little bit more. So the only thing left to do now, turn it on. Hopefully I didn't forget anything, and everything will power up and just work. So that's next. So I did want to show you the cable management. You can see how everything is tied across here and all wrapped in both here and here and just kind of tucked in nice away. So that's going to make putting this on really simple. You really want to get some of those cable combs though, just to tie that up. You want to add an SSD later on, you certainly are able to do that, or you can put another hard drive in there. You just have to maneuver the cables a little bit. Anyway, just wanted to show that to you. We're going to turn it around and we're going to power it on and go from there. Okay, so let's power it on. Everything's lighting up. That's a good sign. Now, the colors are all different. Everything is running the way I like it to, but it's rainbow colors because the software hasn't been set up on it yet. But still, that's pretty sweet. And there, everything is good to go. What more can you ask for? Except for a program that's popping up in the background that I don't want to look at yet. So, yeah. We're good to go. Colors are looking spectacular. Okay, so something I want to show you. We want to get everything up and running. MSI Dragon Center is not working. I want to show you where to get it. Because normally you go to the website, do all that kind of good stuff. But guess what? You don't need to anymore. You can now go to Windows Store. So type in Store in the search. Go to Microsoft Store. Do a search up here. Type in Dragon Center. And you'll see it. MSI Dragon Center app. Free download. And install. This will install it. Everything will work. It's going to ask you to sign in. All that kind of stuff. But you don't need to, because you can see it's doing it up here. So I'm going to close this right now. You can see up here it's downloading it anyway. It's still going to do it for me. And then I'm going to go in. I'm going to do all the colors. I'm going to show you that this actually works. So something to keep in mind is Dragon Center from Microsoft Store. You can go in and get it. You can download it. You don't have to sign in unless you want to. And that's going to let us change all our colors on our system. But, I mean, honestly, it's looking pretty sweet right now. It's got the different modes going. And it's telling us we got a software update. Yeah, all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, we're going to let this continue. We'll come back once it's done. And we're going to check out the colors one last time. So I actually did not sign in. All I did is I went in instead and I said, run the program as administrator. You're going to have to scroll down, agree to the licensing and all that kind of good stuff. Click OK. And now it's going to just install and it's going to do everything. This has been a major sticking point for a lot of people. This just didn't work when you did it from MSI's website. Don't know why. It's provided to Windows from the MSI website, but for whatever reason, when you do it this way, it works. So we're going to let this go through, do its engine, it's going to update everything, it's going to do its whole process, then we'll change the colors. But I just wanted to show you that because a lot of people have problems with the Dragon Center, and I've done a couple videos on it, but I've never actually mentioned going in and getting it from Windows Store. Install it from here directly. If you already installed it and you're having problems, uninstall it. Go in here and do it this way. Reinstall it, and that will likely, not 100%, but it should, solve all your problems. And then your Mystic Light and all your colors, everything will be here for you can sync them up and make everything work, which ultimately is what everybody wants to do. So once you've done all this, all the software you normally install from the MSI DVD, it's all going to be here. Okay, your user scenarios, set up your fan speeds, all that kind of good stuff in here. Your monitoring, so you can see what speed your CPU is running at, your core temperatures, all that kind of good stuff. True colors, so you can choose iRest, gaming, movies, all that kind of good choices. And of course, Mystic Light. So you can select all, or you can select the individual one that you're connected to. All right, I'm going to select all. I'm going to come over here, do a drop down, and I don't know, let's pick something. Oh, let's go with breathing. I'm going to pick everything on green. I'm going to click apply. And everything is green except for my Corsair memory. Not sure why that is, but with Corsair, they have their own software called iCUE. So you can see it's green here. Everything on the inside is green, your RGB. All right, so I just want to show you that. But our memory here, go in, get your iCUE software, and that will not only let you probably do all this, the iCUE software will probably recognize everything and you can do it that way. But you can go in and do it on its own as well. You can have two different color schemes going. So the choice is really all yours. So I'm going to try one more thing here. I've already unselect all. Yeah, it's not going to let me pick the memory. But anyway, we're good. So that's it. Close her down. And that is our video. All right, everybody. So that is all my tips, tricks, things that could go wrong, things that you might not think of, things that you think you thought of, and then it throws you a curveball. All kinds of little things to be aware of. The Mystic Light from MSI Dragon Center, so you can scan, you can update all your software, all that kind of good stuff, all from Windows Store. Okay, a lot of people don't know that, don't realize you can do it that way. It will save you a lot of problems. Trust me, it's the only way I do it now. I do not go to MSI's website. I don't know why it doesn't work when I do it that way, but they've got it set up through the Windows Store. It just works so much better. Everything just works, except of course, if you have RGB memory, which is set up separately and may have its own software. Now, if you go into the iCUE software, however, you may find it will recognize all your other devices and it will just let you go ahead and do everything from there. And then don't even worry about Mystic Light. You won't need it. So anyhow, if you like this video, hit that like. If you don't, you know what to do. Think about subscribing if you're new here. Hit that bell for notifications for videos as they come up. And hope you've enjoyed this. And stay tuned for the next one. And the cables, I got custom cables. They're sold by VLC Canada, but they're directly from CableMod. So CableMod is a US site, so instead of going there, I just bought it directly from a Canadian site. And that way I know the price right at the get-go. They look great. They'll enhance the look of your build that much more. I got it from newegg.ca, but you can go directly to the company and customize it to the power supply you want to use, and even to the motherboard and case. So you can have all the proper lengths for everything you want to do. If you only want a certain length for that case, or you had an oversized case like the Phanteks P500A digital, it's quite a big case. So telling them what case I wanted, they probably adjusted the length of the cables to make sure they all fit, and went from there. But anyway, great product. I wish I'd got the cable combs with it, but I'm going to buy some, put them on there, and it'll make it even better looking. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.